Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today at 3 o'clock. Appreciate this is potentially a very difficult slot to be presenting to you all at. My name is Arti Banderi. I'm a policy lead at the Department for Education. And this year, one of the deliverables that the department has been working on is refreshing workforce principles that we set out in the SRM strategy. So hopefully this year, we're hoping around October, we'll be sending out non-statutory guidance on workforce principles. We wanted in this section to drill down on one of those principles that we worked with the sector with, and that is specifically on developing your staff. And I am delighted and very grateful that Anna has worked with us, and she's going to be presenting to you what her trust has done to develop her staff. So over to Anna.
Thank you, Arti. Thank you, everybody. So yes, we're talking about developing teaching and support staff to help retention and recruitment. So I'm from Heart Academies Trust. We're a small multi-academy trust in Bedford. We currently have 3 primary schools and a secondary school. And we have spent the last 4 years really looking at our recruitment, looking at our retention. We're in a position where we were actually eligible for additional funding because our turnover of staff was so high 4 years ago. And now we're at a point where our turnover actually is reduced significantly because of the work we've been doing on retention and looking at our pathways we have for our staff within our organisation. Now, I'd love to be able to tell you all that when I talk about recruitment and retention, I've got a magic wand strategy that I can just do this and you can go back and you'll have maths teachers, computing teachers, aplenty in your classrooms. But unfortunately, it's not that, but it is some strategies that hopefully won't help and that we've seen that have been really successful with our Academy Trust. We're already very, very aware that ITT targets have been missed, and we've worked with so many different ITT providers about how we can get more staff into primary and secondary, and we know those targets for getting people onto the training programmes haven't been met, unfortunately. So we've then started thinking more creatively about how we can get more staff onto those ITT programmes to make sure the recruitment is really, really clear moving forward, and we've got that succession planning for our staff through in all of our schools. And in order to do this, we've got a really amazing field of support staff that come through the door to work in our schools. And we've started looking at how we can identify those members of staff from the recruitment point straight away. So when we get applications in for any role within our organisation, we're looking for potential. So when we get a CV that comes through that says that someone has a degree in a certain area that might be linked to one of our subject areas that we want to recruit in, we're looking at what are the barriers from this person from going into teaching. And I want to say we don't force everybody that puts an application in for any role in our school that say they have to become teachers within X number of years of working for us. But if that is something that they would like in their career path, we look at every single way we can get them through the door and into a teaching position if they would like that. And one of that, as I said, is looking at the potential. Once we find that, we then need to look at the barriers that have stopped them previously from going into teaching. Some cases, it might be that they haven't got the qualifications required. They do not meet the criteria for the ITT programmes that we've been working with. So in many cases, they've said to us, so therefore they've no longer looked at that as an option. What we've said is let's get that barrier and let's take it away. This is not, and I say this later, unfortunately, a quick fix because we've got some colleagues that come through, they don't have a degree, they might not have the qualifications that they need in Maths and English GCSE, so we need to look at the bigger picture. So we need to think about how we get those qualifications, how we support those members of staff so they can get those qualifications and meet the criteria for ITT. Well, I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on to the next slide, but then when we look at working for multi-academy trust, we look at the greater opportunities we might be able to give them. We've had several members of staff start at our secondary, but it ended up being a primary school teacher. We can do that because we work in a multi-academy trust with both phases. And again, when someone walks through the door of our secondary, they always say to me, oh, love to be a teacher, but oh gosh, not secondary children. I'm like, don't worry, let's look at alternatives for primary. Let's look at early years. Let's look at preschool. We have those provisions within our MAT, so let's not limit you to the school you've applied to in that support role. And we always want to make sure that we celebrate the successes of all of our staff by sharing career highlights, career aspiration, so people can see what pathway they can take if they join Heart Academy's trust. And we've just been working to refresh that, actually, and going through our colleagues that started in one role and now in a leadership position, and actually highlighting that and sharing it with other people makes people realise that can be me. Just like we say with our children, if you can see it, you can be it. We do that with our staff as well, and that's really important. And when we look at them, once they're in the teaching profession, how we're going to retain them, how do we get opportunities for them to develop? If we're going to retain these really high quality teachers that we've taken the time and effort to train, how do we keep them within our organisation as well? Especially because we only have one secondary school, that's a real challenge, because we want to make sure they have opportunities to develop as well. So I just want to talk about a pathway that several of our staff have gone through. We've had several members of staff join us as an LSA in either phase, primary or secondary. They've gained that experience and they've decided, you know what, this is something that I really am passionate about. I enjoy working with the children. Teaching is a potential pathway for me. We then look at an associate teacher role for them. Now, that role is a cover supervisor. It's in looking at different classes, and actually that gives them a really good understanding of different subjects, different areas, different parts of the school. From there, we can move to an unqualified teacher in one specific subject area, so they gain experience. This way, when they go to apply for the ITT, they'll have a wealth of experience to draw on in order to apply and be successful for those positions. We then look at the right ITT for them, and we work with a range of different ITT providers, and some are more appropriate for others. For example, we work really closely with Teach First, but that's a really specific ITT route to becoming a teacher, and that's not appropriate for everybody. So knowing our staff is really, really essential, so then we can make sure we get them onto the right route. We make sure this is salaried, so they can still earn a good salary whilst training. We pay their training fees to become a teacher. We do have an agreement that they will work with us for a certain amount of time for that in order for us to pay for those fees, but it means actually there is zero cost to them becoming a teacher. Yes, that outlay from CPD budgets is high. However, long term, if it means we've got more teachers in the profession, that will repay itself over time. And then we have a really thorough ECT programme to make sure that they are well supported in those first 2 years of teaching. A couple of examples, I love a case study. So I've had a fantastic LSA join us as an EAL LSA at our secondary. Loved working in the school, but wasn't quite sure of what subject area he would do. He had a degree in PE, but wasn't really that wasn't his passion. So we had a conversation. I said, come and spend a couple of days in one of our primary schools. Absolutely loved it, so we got him onto the primary course. Another one of our colleagues, she's joined us, she didn't have a degree, but she desperately wanted to become a food technology teacher. So we have supported her. It's taken some time doing her degree part-time with the Open University while still working as an LSA in the school and a cover supervisor. But we've now got her through the door that she's got that qualification ready to start her teacher training in September. And actually, over the time, she's actually rediscovered a love of science. So we've now got a science teacher starting in September. For those of you who are in secondaries, that is excellent. We're very, very grateful. So it's a real pathway. Another one I was sharing with Will this morning, one of our IT technicians, again, really been interested in teaching for a long time, put it off, had the conversation last week, and now she's going to start on a computing unqualified route for the year, ready to start her teacher training in September because of the work we've been doing in the school, and she can see that path for retention. And that's really important for us. And so, as I said, this is not going to be a quick fix, unfortunately. If I think about the person that's starting her science training with us in September, this has been a conversation I had with her 3-4 years ago. But I know because of the commitment we have given her, she is really committed to us, our school, our community. And for that reason, we know we're going to be able to retain her. We also need to be really strategic when it comes to our subject shortages, and we're thinking about our subject enhancement courses that we can offer and working with the local universities. We are very, very close to Bedford University that has one of the best PE teaching qualifications that you can do. So a lot of PE teachers come from Bedford. However, we're working with the university to look at experience in other subject sorted areas to make sure they've got the capacity as well to be able to deliver other subjects. We don't sell a full stream, come and work for us and you can teach PE all the time. They know they're going to have a split timetable, but we're a sensible split timetable. We take care that it's not lessons over in science, lessons over in maths, and a tiny pocket of PE. We again give them that pathway. The work with the ITT providers is essential. As I said, our work with Teach First was absolutely fantastic to get some really high quality graduates coming through the door to start with. But now that relationship has developed that we're now working with them really closely on their new skit they're going to be delivering. So we can become a delivery partner, which means we don't have to be a teaching hub, but we can work really closely with them again. So we can look at recruiting high quality graduates from that pathway. We are community driven with everything that we do. So our alumni is so important. Our students go to university and they come back and they say to us they want to give back. I love that we have got, I think, about 10 teachers across our schools that all went to our schools. That for me says that we're doing something right in the community, and maintaining those links, welcoming them back, asking them to do talks with our children is absolutely essential. I was in a session earlier about business leaders, about how do we encourage children about the careers in business leadership. Well, we just need to expose them. We need to get people talking to them as much as possible. And if we can do that with teaching and other careers in education, that is absolutely essential. And the retention is something I now want to talk about, how we can really retain those staff. We are all about within. We're all about promoting our talent. We're all about highlighting where we've got talent across the board. And part of my improvement director role is the school improvement across all 4 schools. I do not have a team of consultants. I do not have a team of subject specialists that I parachute in to do work, because I've got phenomenal people on the ground doing great work. So instead, my improvement team is really, really highly qualified teachers that can take the class of someone else so they can go and do improvement work. That improvement work gives another member of staff opportunities to have other development in other schools they might not have the opportunity to. So it's really important that we give that career development across the board. As I've talked about, we share successes. We really do, have those case studies of existing staff. And a couple of examples of what we've been doing is our early opportunities for leadership, including mentoring. We get our new teachers in mentoring our trainees as quickly as possible where appropriate. That real strength of sharing understanding of where they are in their career, where they are in that stage is really, really important. We work really heavily on our coaching. We make sure that our line managers are able to provide high quality coaching even as part of that line management so that staff can develop really, really well. Observations, I don't really like using the word observations because we are doing more learning walks, but we're always doing it in pairs, in 3s. So it's actually a development process. We're into classrooms, working with the teachers. What have we seen? What do we want to do to improve? But this is a dialogue. It isn't just one member of SLT going into a lesson, telling a teacher what to do. It's we're working in partnership always together. And we also look at individual projects we might want our newer teachers to the profession to take on. We've got some fantastic things to raise achievement and attainment in our oracy across the board, and some of our less experienced teachers have taken on those projects. We've highlighted where they've got strength and experience from their training, maybe from their degree, and asked them, what would you like to do to bring that into our school? At Bedford Academy, our secondary school, we've got coming up our action research marketplace. And our members of staff, are part of their CPD, where they've been given time, they've been able to go out and do action research into key areas of teaching and learning. And that then this marketplace will be able for them to share what they've learned. And that's so important for us to be able to share with all of our colleagues that expertise, but also for staff to be able to see that area of development they might be able to have. And I've kind of jumped onto my next one as well by talking about that, our CPD opportunities. We also take advantage of every opportunity for CPD, especially our funded CPD with the MPQs at the moment. That is so important. And there is no limitation on the experience for our staff to be able to take on board those. If somebody wants to do an MPQ and if they've just finished their ECT or they're in the middle of the ECT, that's absolutely fine if it's right for that person. We don't use experience in age or in time as a barrier for someone to developing and moving forward, which means they're able to really see a pathway within the organisation. As I talked about, the internal talent for improvement work, one of the biggest criticisms we had when our trust was first formed is that we had this group of consultants who were coming in doing work across the schools. And lots of the staff said, well, actually, we feel that we've got that ability, but I don't want to stop teaching all the time. I don't want to leave my class to do that role. So we've come up with a way now to make sure that we use those members of staff across the board and not just a smaller group of consultants to really draw in on that high quality talent. Our shadowing programme as well has been really successful. Again, we want our staff to know what these roles look like. So we've had people going across to the primary schools as well to experience life as a deputy head in a primary if they're a secondary colleague, and vice versa. Looking at the head of year role, looking at the head of department role, being able to do that shadowing really allows people to understand what their future might look like. Even our senior leaders do it. So one of our assistant heads in charge of teaching and learning felt she didn't have a really strong pastoral background and she wanted to go for the deputy head role, that she might need that. So we arranged some shadowing for that role so she could really gain that experience. Another area is our secondments, and we really have seen a massive amount of retention because of this. A lot of colleagues are thinking about their next step, but they want to gain some more experience, but instead of applying externally for that next step, we've been able to give them a secondment position on the leadership teams. And sometimes this has been at a different school as well. So again, it gives them contextual understanding, contextual experience, as well as leadership experience. We do a really thorough interview experience for that as well, because we really believe that gives extra experience for people when it comes to applying for leadership roles. And we really dedicate the time to feedback. I will spend hours with somebody if they want that to go through the feedback on what they've done, how they could have improved that, and where they need to do what they need to do moving forward. And always as part of the secondment, we ask them to do a specific project because that allows them to be able to show impact, which will help them moving on to their next stage for that experience. Now, we do need an appropriate incentive. It doesn't always have to be financial, and when we've spoken to our staff, they've said that time is always beneficial, which I know does have a financial impact when we're thinking about the timetable, but actually finding the right incentive to give them the right project to take on board is really, really important. And then we think about recruitment. I'm here today, and I'm hoping that when you go back, you'll talk about Heart Academy's Trust positively, but that is what we do. We are an organisation where we have 3 principles of ethical leadership, inclusion and equity that underpin everything we do. When we're writing new policies, those 3 principles are always considered. When we're thinking about flexi working requests, we think about those 3 principles. When we're looking at anything, those 3 principles need to take the overarching aim. We've looked at potentially merging with other trusts, but if they don't align with those 3 principles, we've said it might be brilliant financially, but we're going to step back because it's not right for us morally and for the ethos and vision and values of the trust. And that's what we want people to know when we go out to recruitment. I go to recruitment fairs, I speak to ECTs, I speak to trainees on a regular basis, and I really do sell that it's actually you're coming in for a career journey, not just a job because you need to get a job out of training. And we do it with all our visibility, with our publicity, and we do take part in so many different networking groups, and that is so important that having people through the door, visiting any tours from other local schools, any other local networking groups, if you can do that, that is so important. When it comes to interviews, I always laugh with my head teacher and say that we are showing the school off when anybody walks through the door, because even if that person isn't the right person for us on that day, it might be a case that they say to somebody else when they're applying for a job at your school, oh, I went for an interview there, they were amazing, they were really wonderful, I really enjoyed the experience, I would definitely recommend you going for an interview there as well. So I always think that no matter, even if it's someone that you're not going to give that job to, they will talk to somebody else at some point, and you always want that to be in a positive light. We do a lot of placements and work experience, mainly because of the reason I said about our alumni. We want people to come back. So when I get that email from somebody at university that wants to come and do a work placement in IT, for example, we will make that happen for them. Someone that's ready to do a work placement in HR, we've got someone at the moment on a work placement with us. We will organise that because we want people to talk favourably about the organisation, and therefore when we put those adverts out, whether it's teaching, support staff or central teams or other services, we want them to know that our organisation is that organisation that will look after their career moving forward. We are working on the same career pathway for our support staff that don't want to go into teaching as well. So we're selling that as, to those people that when they come through the door as an apprentice, they can see a pathway into other roles in the organisation. And the final thing before I hand over to Will is, and I'm just thinking my timing, I'm actually slightly ahead of schedule, probably rattled through that, so I apologise, is we need to think about where we're going to advertise, because you want the most people to see that. Obviously, every single advert that we put out there, we're retweeting, we're sharing on various different platforms. But if you don't get the right person to see that advert, it's almost no point in having the advert at all. And I think that's where Teacher Vacancies has come in, and where we've used Teacher Vacancies, it can take that reach further afield to really make sure we get those right people applying for those jobs and coming through the door. So I'm going to hand over to Will to talk about Teacher Vacancies a bit. Oh.
Thank you very much, Anna. Yes, I'm Will. I am the Stakeholder Outreach and Engagement Lead with the DfE's free national search and listing service, Teaching Vacancies. I'm just going to give you a brief update on how the service is performing, tell you a little bit about how we've been doing over the past year, and then we should have some time for questions. I'm sure there'll be loads of questions for you, Anna. Some fantastic advice you were giving there for colleagues here today. So, just maybe a quick refresher to start about what Teaching Vacancies does for state-funded schools in England. We are free, we are national, and we allow schools, local authority schools, state-funded schools and academy trusts in England to list vacancies for teaching, leadership and education support roles. Our principal aim since being created in 2019 has been the same. We exist to save schools money on teacher recruitment so that they can redivert the estimated £75 million on teacher recruitment back into the classroom. However, this past year, following feedback from schools and from teachers, we've really ramped up our efforts in supporting schools to fill vacancies and to support teachers and other classroom-based leadership and staff in searching and applying for vacancies. Since the launch in April 2019, the service has really grown and gone from strength to strength. 84% of state-funded schools are now signed up to use Teaching Vacancies, and the service is now one of the largest source of secondary school jobs directly listed by secondary schools in England, and is the largest source of primary school jobs directly listed by primary schools. Additionally, our job seeker reach has increased quite significantly. Hundreds of thousands of job seekers use the service every single month, and this academic year we have had an average of 275,000 unique job seekers visiting the service each month. And with that, over 67,000 job seekers are now signed up to receive job alerts, and almost 90,000 job alerts are sent out on a weekly basis to those who have signed up. And I think we can very much attribute the increase in job seeker visits to our increased marketing and stakeholder engagement. We are constantly exploring new ways and new channels to reach teachers and other school staff in scope to use the service, as well as invested in pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization, so that school vacancies listed on Teaching Vacancies match with suitable job seekers. Both job seekers and hiring staff find the service extremely useful and have found success using Teaching Vacancies, and we have some excellent feedback outlining how we are helping job seekers find jobs and are supporting schools and trusts finding high quality candidates and save money that can be put back into the classroom. And we're going to hear from one educational trust very, very briefly, who will share their experiences of using Teaching Vacancies.
Okay. My name is Michael Webberton,
Cassie Buchanan, Emily Crow,
and I'm the head teacher here at Charles Dickens Primary School.
CEO of the Charter Schools Educational Trust,
Deputy Director at the London South Teaching School Hub.
I think that every day is different. Trusts are relatively new. That means there are real opportunities and challenges, figuring those out together as schools and leaders.
Being a head teacher is that, my main goal and focus is the children getting the best education possible, but I get to delve into many different things. So I get to run a club, but then there'll be other days where I'll be looking at whole school finance, and I'll be looking actually, how can I make the books balance next year and get the best possible outcomes for the children.
How varied it is. I have the opportunity to train teachers throughout their career, supporting them again to be the best that they can be and having that direct impact on pupil outcomes.
So the recruitment of senior leaders is part of my job.
And recruiting definitely part of my remit.
Working as part of the trust, it's very important recruiting the best talent.
Teaching vacancies.
Teaching vacancies.
Teaching vacancies. Opportunity for senior leaders to post roles as flexible.
It's free, that certainly helps.
It's like that simple. 40 teachers using teaching vacancies, so that's 30 secondary school teachers and 10 primary school teachers. We also recruited our first head teacher.
We did spend a lot on recruitment.
So before we began using Teaching Vacancies website, annually we would spend tens and tens of thousands of pounds. The money that we have saved,
Reinvested a lot of that money into making a stunning library for the children. Every single child learns to play a musical instrument, making sure we have enough guitars and keyboards for every single child to use as part of their music lessons.
In our wellbeing offer for staff.
yes.
I'd certainly recommend it, and many schools across the country are using it.
We're really very grateful to the Charter Schools Education Trust for sharing their experiences so that we could record and share with you today. Teacher Vacancies is very much a user-centred service, and we constantly look to iterate and improve in order to better serve our users. And we continually undertake user research, and as a result, we make changes to make it easier for schools to list vacancies and match them with a pool of quality teachers. So some more recent examples where schools told us that they needed more confidence, that they would get the reach of job seekers when using the service. So this year, for the first time, we were able to directly market teaching vacancies to final year trainee teachers. And as a result, we saw almost 30,000 vacancy searches from trainee teachers seeking their first permanent teaching role, and 14,000 job alerts created in just over 2 months. We built trust with teachers by providing employability support, content on a new campaign website, and we emailed all schools to encourage them to post all ECT relevant vacancies on the service as well. Schools also told us they wanted it to be easier to list vacancies on the service, so we built an ATS integration feature. We now work with a number of ATS providers who provide services to MATs and schools. Teaching vacancies can pull the vacancies from the application tracking system, meaning that hiring staff do not have to write out vacancies again onto teaching vacancies. And this ATS integration does save hiring staff a massive amount of time. And we are now looking to make this a bit more scalable as we find there is more demand from schools. Lastly, schools told us that they want potential candidates to get a sense of their identity before applying for a role. So we built a school profiles feature, allowing schools to build their own dedicated pages and inform potential candidates about things like vision, commitment to well-being, and include their school branding as well. Although the feedback we get is overwhelmingly positive, we constantly look to improve and iterate in order to meet the needs of our users. So, as mentioned earlier, we will continue to explore different ways to market the service, particularly to job seekers, so that schools will continue to trust that they will have quality candidates applying for their roles through the service. We're going to continue to optimise the service for hiring staff and job seekers, making it easier to add roles and optimise search processes for our job seekers too. And we are continuing to explore how we can expand the service further so that schools and trusts can list all of their vacancies in one place. I'm going to finish there. If you would like to get in touch, ask a question, receive a demo of the service, please take down my details, and we'd be really happy to arrange that for you. Thank you for your time. That's all from me. I don't know, am I passing back to you, Artie, or is that it? No, so we'll go to Q&A now. I imagine there's lots of questions. Yes, any questions? Here we go. Anna, do you want to come on?
You say you're looking to expand the service. I'm assuming you're looking to expand it to support staff as well as teaching staff. Would there be plans to link professional standards as an opportunity for school business leaders, particularly, and working with the ISBL to kind of have the different levels of grades and the professional standards required within there?
From my understanding, we've not actually looked into that. However, if you would like to get in touch, we could put you in touch with our policy lead, and I'm sure he'd be over the moon to...
Delighted to hear from me.
He genuinely would. So please do get in touch, yeah, and we can set up a call. Thanks.
We have signed up to teaching vacancies, but we also have tests. And, I know obviously teaching vacancies is relatively new, but it's really hard, I think, in terms of candidates we get. By and large, they all come through tests. And, when we've asked, did you see the adverts on teaching vacancies, the answer's resoundingly no. So I think that's a real hard sell, I think.
I mean, we do have a lot of anecdotal feedback, like some of the feedback you saw in that presentation about successful hires through the service. And of course, we do receive some feedback where schools say they've had less luck. What I would say is that the balance of schools that I speak to when I go out, Matt's local authorities as well, who post on behalf of schools, they say they do have success hiring. Especially more so than maybe if I was to go out 2 years ago to speak to them when the service was obviously a lot newer, where they were having less success. But what we're seeing now, especially, now we've got more of a job seeker reach, that more and more schools are having success hiring through teaching vacancies.
Thank you.
Hi. Is there the possibility, or does it have the capacity to have talent pooling in there so schools can go on there to identify potential candidates?
Yes, so we have actually introduced a new feature which we call Candidate Profiles, which went live a few weeks ago. It's very, very new. It does need iterating already. We have had a lot of user research to suggest that it's not quite working for schools, but we are looking to make that a more effective and efficient talent pool, if you like, ready for the new academic year. So, yeah.
Hi, sorry, my question is actually directed at the School Improvement Director. I'm sorry, I can't quite remember your name. Anna, hi. Anna, thank you so much for your presentation. That was absolutely spectacular. I've just got just a question around, you said you invest heavily in the CPD budget. Yeah. I'd be interested to kind of know what sort of percentage that makes up of your school budget, appreciating that every school is different. The second part to that is around your succession planning. Surely there must be a point where you become top heavy, and how do you manage that as a process? So budget-wise, we have then the percentage of school budget, it varies each year because we look at actually numbers of staff, who have we got primary versus secondary. But what we have actually done is look at other platforms provide the majority of our day-to-day CPD. So things like the National College we've used massively, that actually has made a greater reach for more members of staff with that money that we're using. So actually it provides greater economy at scale actually with all the people that we've got in the organisation, and using that everybody can have access to that in addition
position to them more bespoke. And then we look at what we can offer internally that's free of charge by using people with their expertise. Again, when it comes to the network, we have a lot of, I will go and support somebody else's mat for free, and they will come back in and do some CPD with us as well. So again, those networks, getting out there is so important to being able to have those, I would say, like my favours in reserve with lots of other people. Absolutely top heavy. There is a point where we're going to get to this point where we've got too many people that have got all these amazing leadership experiences, but we haven't got the roles to be able to give them. And that is our biggest driver to expanding as a MAT. So then we've got more secondaries to actually then look at how we can address that. At the moment, we do lose people, but the only time we lose them is for those sorts of reasons. And actually, as from a moral point of view, I'm actually delighted about that. So I've got someone that's just going off for her first deputy headship. That's absolutely amazing for her. I'm devastated we're losing her because she was phenomenal. We don't have a deputy head role for her. But actually her going on to do that is really important. And I know eventually if we had another role within our organisation, she'd remember us to come back for that opportunity. So yes, it's a certain point we will lose them, but we know we've developed and nurtured them to get to that point that then they can move on.
Sorry, I just wanted to add...
Will. Yes.
So, we'll just talk about the teaching vacancies again. I just echo what the gentleman said at the front there, is that I've been monitoring every single application that we've had over the last 2 years, and they've all put TES, unfortunately, as the source of where they've seen the job advertised. But rather more alarmingly, it seems that a lot of teachers can't be bothered to complete applications at all anymore and just go to staffing agencies. And we, 2 years ago, spent nearly £50,000 on finders fees because teachers are just not following the conventional route. And I guess it's a problem in the public sector with nursing and other industries. And much as we try and negotiate with these agencies and beat them down in price, we've just had to take because we're a pilot school, we're looking for a T-level construction teacher and we've had to spend 30% finders fee on someone earning £60,000 a year. And that's having a real hit on us. And it would be really nice if, I mean, we are just wasting cumulatively. So I've looked back over the last 5 years, we spent nearly £100,000 in finders fees. And being in inner London as well, it's a very competitive recruitment market. It's just a complete waste of money when you're offering a free service.
Absolutely, and I think what I would be surprised if there was someone in here who didn't want this service to work. I think everyone wants this service to work, essentially. So, I mean, your feedback on what you want the service to look like is going to be quite essential for us as we continue to make it better and to try to meet the needs of the people that are using it. So again, I would really stress for you to, if you do have suggestions, if you want to see something that you can't currently see on teaching vacancies, do get in touch because we do listen. And if we listen to an idea and we think that it's got legs, then we put a lot of effort in user research to make sure that actually, we try to find out whether or not this is actually potentially going to be a success. And, the growth that we've seen in 4 years is a great success. And I would hope to come back here in 2 years and hopefully you'd be here again and I'd be able to show you even more growth of the service and hopefully we'd have people saying, do you know what? Yes, all our vacancies are being filled through teaching vacancies. That's the aim. That's what we want. Because, like you said, schools are spending so much money on teacher recruitment when that money can be or should essentially be reinvested and redirected back into the classroom. Thank you. Please, I do stress, please do get in touch. Well, that's what we're currently looking at. We're currently at the end of a project research session, and that the outcome of that should be in the next few months. I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be at the moment, but it is specifically looking at whether or not we should include support roles on the service. Thank you very much. Thank you.